Hi everyone. I just wanted to show you what we're doing in the studio today. We have something very, very special that we're doing in the studio today. I'm creating a generational portrait with these beautiful ladies here. And then we've got Sandy, Bryn, and Kira. And I had something up that people filled out online to do this special project that I'm working on. And they came in and I got to hear a little bit of the story of why this portrait means so much to them, and I thought you'd like to hear it because it's really, really cool. So I was asking them why this portrait is so important to them, and Sandy told me why. So come here just a little bit.
Yes, boss.
And if you could tell them a little bit about your family and what you were telling me about your mom, your dad, a little bit. So how did your mom and dad meet?
After the war, my dad walked from the Soviet Union to Germany. Perhaps took some hitchhiking trips, I don't know. He was, at the time, he was probably about 22, 23 years old. And he had been imprisoned in a gulag because, for the simple reason that when the war was over, he stated that after the war he wanted to go back to Poland to see his family, and he was imprisoned because it was during the time of the revolution in the Soviet Union, and so if you weren't a good communist, then you needed to be imprisoned. So he lived there under very dire circumstances.
He was in prison for how many years?
I think, I'm guessing 5 years. He didn't talk about it. My parents shielded me from anything. One time I spoke to him and I said, Daddy, tell me what it was like. And my father never got agitated like this. And he yelled, and he said, you want me to tell you that they beat me all the time?
Yeah.
He couldn't relive the
horrors of it.
horrors of it, true.
So this is very special because then
yes.
he met your mother.
In the displaced persons camp in Germany, because after the war, people were gathered to make a decision as to where they were going to go. And the first offer that we had was to go to Israel. And my father said, and that was in 1948. He said, they're fighting there. He said, I can't do that. I have to wait to come to the United States. And so in 1949, I was born, I was 2 years old. We traveled on a freighter.
Really?
I ended up having the measles on the ship. They separated the men from the women. My father was very sick. I was sick. My mother was beyond control.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And we came to the United States with nothing. They had no language. They had no money. They had a sponsorship from a cousin who lived in Paterson, New Jersey. But life was hard, and one of the reasons that my parents' story is so significant to me is because they made a life after going through terrible times.
I was reading that she went off to school and, right?
My mother graduated high school at the age of 54. She got her GED. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was just looking through some papers. She aced all of her courses. Very good
Wonderful.
student.
And then you have any brothers and sisters?
I have a sister who's 4 years younger. She was born here.
Okay.
And they did a great job. They educated their children. They got to see their grandchildren, or some of them at least. My dad died young. But my mother got to see her great-grandchildren. So
how wonderful.
it was wonderful.
And I
wonderful.
commented on these beautiful necklaces. She's wearing a beautiful necklace, and her daughter is. And I said, "Oh, what's the story with the necklace?" And if you can tell them a little bit about, that's like a piece of a coin that they came over. They didn't have much, but they had a couple coins on them when they came over, right?
When they got to the displaced persons camp, the story that I heard, my grandmother would share stories, and my father had one cousin who survived the war. And when they would come to the house, I would ask a lot of questions, and my father and mother always asked them to stop because they were very protective of my hearing the stories. So my father learned to live by his wits. because as he was traveling with the two cousins when they left Poland, two of the two cousins were killed, and he managed the rest of the time on his own. So when he was going back to Germany, to the displaced persons camp, along the way he learned to live by his wits, having nothing. And I'm sure there was some dealings that he managed to get the coins. I don't know what
So
they were.
the
And
coins
the
are
coins,
from where?
They're from Austria,
Mm-hmm.
and he was able to bring back a few of them.
And you made necklaces
And I
out of
made-
them.
Because, yes, and I also have a ring. This is my father's ring when he passed away.
Oh,
And
you had it made
and
into a necklace.
I made it into a bracelet. Because,
I mean, a bracelet.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. And this bracelet was my mom's too. And this watch was, my father had given it to my mother as an engagement gift.
And
Oh.
the wedding ring I'm wearing is the ring that my grandma, my mom's mother, was married in.
Oh, get out,
That
really?
is just so sentimental. It's
Because
beautiful.
it was hers. I
Yeah.
have two cousins. My mom mentioned that she has a sister. She has two boys, and each of their wives were also married in this ring.
Oh, how wonderful is that?
The family ties were so significant
Yeah.
because they had nothing.
And this is just so nice that this is a good remembrance because they're no longer with us, but
Right.
this is something special for you
Yes.
guys to do.
Yes, it is.
And my
And-
mom shared my grandfather's story, but my grandmother ended up spending the war in the woods living with the partisan fighters. So she and her sister, she was about 14 years old, her sister was a little bit older, and their mother, my great-grandmother, lived with the partisan fighters in the woods, and my great-grandmother kept house for them, and they spent the war in the woods living with the partisans.
They lived in a hole in the ground for 2 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so when they got to the displaced persons camp in Germany, it was after having lived
In the woods.
in the woods.
Oh my
And so when
gosh.
my mom says she got her high school degree here, it's because, well, other people would have been in high school, that's what she was doing instead.
Wow.
So she came here and raised
And-
two daughters who both went to college. My aunt went to law school, my mom went to graduate school,
And made something of your
Yes.
lives.
right.
You had that opportunity to.
My grandmother, when I was a little girl, said to me, "You have to get your education because that's something they can't take away. No one can take that away from you."
Right.
And that was so significant to her. Other people have said it, other people have lived it, but she had nothing. And so, having had that, she realized how significant that was. And my
Yeah.
parents lived by that,
Mhm.
and I try to make
Instill
that
those
important.
values in us.
Yeah.
Important to my
And
children.
it wasn't just those values, it's also America and all America stands for.
Right. Yeah.
I am so fiercely patriotic because this country allowed us to really fulfill the American dream by coming with nothing, working hard, and being able to accomplish all that we have accomplished today
Yeah.
despite our background. So we are very, very grateful for the opportunity to live here in this country.
Wonderful.
Yes, when I think about my children, my daughter went to Ivy League schools. She is first generation American. That is really something.
That really is something to be
Yes,
proud.
And
Yeah.
my son is very successful. Graduated from the
Tissue.
University of Michigan honors program. I'm very proud of my kids. Very proud. Let me get your tissue.
It's such a beautiful story.
Thank you. It is
And,
a beautiful story. It
You
is.
know, it
It
really
is a
is.
beautiful
It's
story.
such a beautiful family story.
And thank you for letting us be here too.
Oh, I'm
honor
so
that-
happy.
Yeah, what an awesome
What
story.
an honor
I'm
to
glad.
photograph
Yeah.
you and create something.
And be with the three generations.
Yeah.
women
You guys are
that
like
here.
living miracles.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I just wanted you to see a little bit and hear a little bit of their story and what this portrait means to them. I'm creating this generational portrait with this cutie pie right here. And she will have the stories to stay with for the rest of her life and tell her children. And I'm going to stop now because I'm going to create a beautiful portrait for them. And then later on you'll get to see, maybe in a few days, the end result. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing the beautiful story, and I'll see you soon.